Typhoon Goni now starting to slide off here towards the north away from the Philippines, but still those outer rain bands continuing to impact much of Luzon down here towards the south. Look at these thunderstorms bubbling up here on this high resolution imagery from the Himawari. Actually, here in Luzon, we had 5 reports of casualties from down trees due to high winds. Also, 2 people dying in a landslide and flooding as well. So definitely Luzon and the Philippines in general severely impacted by this typhoon, despite the fact it did not make a direct landfall here. Now, as it pulls off here towards the north, we're going to see still that effect of the enhanced monsoon there in much of Luzon, and even extending down towards the Visayas. There is a threat of continued flooding. But you can also see the convection bubbling up here on the northern periphery of our storm system as it really moves over parts of the Kuroshio Current and starts to slam into the mountains out here in Taiwan. And that's going to be another one of the big issues as we go ahead Saturday and into Sunday here out here in Taiwan. That moisture wrapping around and hitting the eastern coastline. Some areas could see as much as 400 to 500 millimeters of total precipitation. But the worst of this storm is really going to be in Ishigaki and Miyako-jima. Actually, JMA has put out their official warning here, and typhoon warnings are in place. They're expecting winds that gust upwards of 116 knots here on Sunday. That is just absolutely intense winds as the eye moves directly over the island before it starts to track off here towards the north-northeast, pushing towards the west of Okinawa. Now, the good news is that the eye wall is going to be missing the island over here towards the east, but you're still in the right front quadrant. I still think that strong tropical storm strength and typhoon strength gust very well possible, unfortunately, even here into Naha, on the bigger populated southern edge of the island out here. Should take a look at this track out from the HWRF model, moving the storm directly over Ishigaki. And this is going to be one of those scenarios where you get the eye wall, that is, and then the eye winds coming down and then wrapping around the western periphery of this. You're going to have those winds coming from the west. So really, it is going to be a rough day out here on Sunday for Ishigaki and even over towards Miyako-jima. JMA also stating winds over here could be gusting well over 90 knots. And then as we go ahead into Sunday, also looking at those winds already picking up there in the Naha, you can see this model even keeping the storm system farther towards the west. So that's really the good news. The worst of this, based on the current forecast, this eye wall, this is what we're talking about, should miss Okinawa Honto. But let's say our storm system wavers a little bit farther here towards the east, and that's why we look at the cone of air bites the center line, talking about these storm systems, because that cone could adjust farther here towards the east. And even JTWC has these tropical storm strength winds definitely dominating all of Okinawa, and even that 50-knot wind, that's this line right in here, basically just skimming the coastline. If that moves a little bit farther towards the east, though, totally different scenario. And the thing about this storm system, ever since it had its interaction with Luzon here, it did lose some of its cloud cover, and the overall width of the storm, it looks like it shrank down. So I think the eye wall is pretty concise. Satellite imagery, that is. So there's a huge difference between the winds here, for example, and the winds here. Now, if, let's say, Okinawa moves over this area, vice one of these eye wall areas or one of these main rain bands coming through, it could mean the difference between 30 to 40 knot winds and let's say 70 to 80 knot winds. So at least at this time, you still want to be prepared for this storm system as it arrives out here in the southern Japanese islands on your Monday. Taiwan, big issue is still, of course, the heavy rainfall. And, of course, if you are out here in the Philippines, river of moisture, the enhanced monsoon will continue to surge in out there in western portions of Luzon. Very serious flood and even landslide threat. And I still think this is very dangerous and potentially deadly across much of this area. So, meanwhile, as our storm system tracks towards the northeast, it is going to move into basically western Kyushu on Tuesday. Big thing out here, Sakurajima really on the edge of exploding. That's this little island right there. It's kind of a peninsula actually sticking out, and they're going to be impacted in Kagoshima pretty significantly by this. So it would be interesting if that was to erupt when this came on shore. Something we're going to continue to watch, but our storm still took a track off there over western portions of Japan, and I don't think Tokyo is going to take a brunt of it, but something to watch if you are out here in Tokyo. Meanwhile, by the way, Atsani, hey, that one's moving towards the north and towards the northeast. Still kicking up the waves, by the way. Actually, much of the eastern coastline, you're seeing about 7 to 8 meter high waves out there right now. If you're a surfer, you better be a strong swimmer, because these are going to be some dangerous rip currents through the rest of the weekend coming in off of Atsani. out across much of eastern Japan. All right, guys, that is all for me right now. Thanks again for watching here at westernpacificweather.com. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please post them down there in the comment box down below. I really appreciate your feedback. If there's any specific graphics you would like to see that I'm not sharing here, yeah, definitely let me know. But of course, and as always, stay safe out there. All right.